What if you could just build a perfect society from the ground up? Well, today, we're going to dive into a real-world social experiment that's trying to do exactly that. It's called the Second Homeland, and it's all based on one man's detailed blueprint to completely re-engineer human life. So let's see what that actually looks like. It's a huge question, right? Sounds like something straight out of a sci-fi movie. But for the people of the Second Homeland, this isn't some hypothetical thought experiment. They're convinced they've found the answer, and they have built their entire community around a very specific plan to make it a reality. Okay, so to really get what they're trying to do, we have to first understand how they see the world. The entire reason this community exists is based on their diagnosis of what they believe are the fundamental crises facing all of humanity. And yeah, that diagnosis is pretty bleak. The list of symptoms is long: war, political fighting, crime, hunger, and they even include the personal pain that can come from traditional families. But here's the key insight. In the philosophy of the Second Homeland, these aren't a bunch of separate problems. Nope, they're all just symptoms of a single, deeply broken system. And that's what brings us to their really radical experiment. You see, the Second Homeland isn't just some theory sitting in a book. It's a real, functioning community. It's designed to be a living, breathing alternative to the way we live now, a model they believe can eliminate all these problems right at the source. So how in the world are they planning to do all this? Well, their entire society is built on a set of 8 foundational characteristics. You can think of these as the constitution for their whole new way of life. That's right, 8 core principles that govern absolutely everything. Let's take a quick look at the full list before we dive into some of the most, well, fascinating and controversial ones. I mean, look at this list. It covers everything. You've got governance with something called chaotic management, a whole new economic model with own nothing, possess everything, and then, get this, a social structure that completely gets rid of marriage and family. It even lays out a new system for welfare, labor, and how the community deals with the outside world. Let's just start with one of the most radical ideas right out of the gate. Own nothing, possess everything. So the deal is, when you join, you hand it all over. All your personal property, your money, everything. It now belongs to the group. The theory is actually super simple. If you remove private ownership, you remove the very root of greed and inequality. Now, if you thought the ideas about money were wild, just wait. The next set of principles is maybe the most startling of all. They are designed to completely dismantle our traditional ideas about family and relationships. This quote from the founder, Zhu Feng, really cuts right to the chase. The philosophy here is basically that the nuclear family, just by its nature, encourages us to be selfish. It creates this us versus them mentality and is seen as a major source of human suffering and waste. So what's their fix? Just get rid of it. This visual here really captures that massive shift in thinking. The whole goal is to move away from the small, isolated family unit and towards one single global family. In this new model, the burden of caring for kids and the elderly is lifted off of individuals and becomes a shared community-wide responsibility. The focus shifts from your own family tree to the good of the entire group. So here's the bottom line. Parents are no longer solely responsible for their children, and children aren't solely responsible for their aging parents. Everyone becomes a child of the community and a caretaker for the community. It's a profound, total rewrite of our most basic social bonds. All right, so if there's no private property and no traditional families, how is this place even run? This brings us to another really counterintuitive idea at the very heart of this community, something they call chaotic management. The core idea here is that the best way to manage is to not manage at all. It's all about getting human ego and all those artificial, made-up rules out of the way. Instead, the community is supposed to run according to natural laws and scientific principles. So in practice, what does that mean? No formal leaders, no managers, no bosses in the way we think of them. So how does this actually work? Well, it kind of breaks down into a few key ideas. First, you trust in the natural order over man-made laws. Second, you rely on inspiring people's inner goodness, not on forcing them with a bunch of rules. Third, anyone who's in a coordination role is seen as a servant, not a boss. They have responsibilities, sure, but zero special power or privileges. And finally, the whole point of the system isn't about productivity. It's about helping people actually enjoy the process of living. But there's a huge catch, and the founder is super clear on this. This whole no management thing is completely impossible unless every single member first goes through a deep purification of the soul. This means fundamentally changing their own consciousness to get rid of selfishness, greed, and ego. Without that complete inner transformation, the founder himself admits, the entire structure would just collapse into chaos. So this all leads us to the ultimate question. What's the end game here? Is this whole thing just for one small group of people? Well, according to its founder, the answer is absolutely not. The vision is incredibly ambitious, and it's laid out in 3 clear steps. First, the second homeland itself is the laboratory, the proof of concept. If they can make the model work there on a small scale, step 2 is to promote this model to the rest of the world. And the ultimate goal? Nothing less than a total global transformation, creating a single harmonious human family with no nations, no borders, and no war. So when you look at it all, the second homeland is this incredibly detailed solution to some of our oldest problems. It offers a radical, all-or-nothing blueprint for a new world. And that leaves us with a pretty big question. It's not just whether this is a practical path forward or just an impossible utopian dream. The real question is, what parts of our own world would we be willing to give up to live in theirs?